Hi, welcome to Think This Through. I'm Coleman Watts. Hey, this show's starting to pick up some steam, and that's great. I've got some fans now. That's nice. Except apparently they hate me, because the number one request I've gotten lately is to talk about this guy.
I'm a crackhead. I don't know.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all so much. I love you too. Okay, today we're talking about Terrence Howard. He's an actor, and apparently he's really good as long as he keeps his mouth shut, or is getting punched in the mouth. But this is what happens when he opens his mouth.
I was able to open up the flower of life properly and find the real wave conjugations that we've been looking for 10,000 years. Why would I continue, walking on water for tips when I've got an entire generation to teach a whole new world?
Just to cut to the chase, Terrence believes he's solved the secrets of the universe that Einstein wasn't smart enough to figure out, and he's written a book about his theories and given lectures and recently appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast for some reason. Let's take those in order. 1, here's his book. Well, it's not a book, it's a PDF, which kind of looks like it was created in PowerPoint. I'm not sure. Some of the pages look like a crappy ebook, and other pages look more like a crappy PowerPoint. Anyway, in this thing, he claims that $1 times $1 equals $2. This is what he says idiots like Einstein would have you believe, but this is the real truth. You can download and read this PDF from his website for the low price of $0, which I'm honestly not sure if he's giving it away for free on purpose, or if he thought he'd get rich by selling millions of ebooks for the price of $1 times 0. That actually seems plausible given the very special way he does math. The main argument of his book is that 1 times 1 equals 2. That's right, if you take 1 time, there are now 2 of them. See? Whoa, there are 2 of them. Ooh. The book offers the following ironclad mathematical proof. Are you ready for this truth pill? This is a real, actual page from the Book of Terrence. 1 times 1 equals 2 in bold italics. Smug emoji face. Chess cliche. Checkmate. Yeah, roll that up and smoke it. You want to see some more of this book? Well, too bad. I'm going to show you anyway. The introduction starts off, like any good conspiracy theory, by playing the victim card. Dear world, they are out to get him because his disruptive new math is going to challenge everything they want you to believe. Yes, for bravely taking on the system and sticking it to the man, Terrence risks being attacked by an angry mob of elementary school teachers who threaten to take away his recess until he corrects his math homework. But he's not going to take their detention without a fight. And yes, a lot of this book is just memes he copied off the internet. Einstein wasn't smart enough to fill his book with memes, now was he? Checkmate, Einstein. The Book of Terrence also bravely asks some big questions, like, what is the true age of the universe? Those shady scientists at NASA would tell you that their best estimate is 13.77 billion years based on precise measurements of the cosmic microwave background. But Terrence also knows how to use a microwave, probably, and he proves that the real answer is he doesn't have a clue. But here's a smug emoji face to show you just how smart he is. Now, why, you might ask, is there a global conspiracy to cover up the true age of the universe? A question that literally affects no one's daily life. Well, the answer is it's a conspiracy! See? Wake up, sheeple! You don't want to be like those cartoons. You want to be like this cartoon.
So when I took the flower of life and opened it properly, I found a whole new wave conjugations that expose the in-between spaces.
Terrence Howard, in his own words, was born on March 11th, 1969. That's the day the whole world finally got a chance to see this amazing creation. That's right, you have the privilege to live in the same world as Terrence Howard, manifestation of all collective states of matter. Every waveform in the universe flows through him, and every wave is dependent on his existence. We are so lucky. And he couldn't keep the good news of his coming to himself. No, he had to bless the world with his divine presence. And, as he brags about in his book, he was, for some reason, invited by some very polite British students to speak at the Oxford Union. Now, that's not to be confused with Oxford University. The Union is more like an after-school club, but a very prestigious one. That's why he let them share a page of his book with a Bible verse, some doodles he made, and a picture he copied out of Watchtower, the magazine of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, I don't know why these students invited him, but I'm pretty sure they had no idea what they were in for. Maybe they just thought he was going to talk about acting. You know, his real job that he has training in.
You know, I didn't have any training as an actor, right?
Or at least he came by the work honestly.
By doing a fancy little thing called lying. You know?
I can tell they're already impressed.
I put together a 3-page resume of all the projects that I wanted to do, starring in all these things, and that was my first resume.
Yes, in the first minute of his speech, he just admitted that his entire career was based on a lie.
And it got me into the door, and as time went on over the last 35 years, I filled up that thing, so it's no more lies on my resume.
So it's okay, he says. The ends justify the means.
But it wasn't lies then, it was what I was going to make happen.
So lying isn't really lying when Terrence does it. Maybe we should put a pin in that. But as you might have guessed, he's not really there to talk about acting.
But that's never been my passion. I was an actor because it was like Jesus walking on water for tips.
So Terrence is just like Jesus, and Jesus was working for tips?
It was like Jesus walking on water for tips, because he could do it.
I can never remember. How much are you supposed to tip your Messiah? Is it 20%, or is 15% enough, or do you go to hell for that?
But the thing that I was most spiritually connected to, that was my driving force, was physics.
And here we go. What he's really here to talk about is his spiritual beliefs, which are disproven by physics, so physics must be wrong.
And I fell in love with this thing called the flower of life. You guys know Da Vinci?
Obviously, that's what this is all about. His ebook thing is littered with Bible verses, religious quotes, spiritual images, sacred geometry, religious symbolism, and revelations like this. The end of all theories is what you're about to witness. Go ahead, don't be scared, turn the page.
Oh, I am so scared.
Should I do it?
Please, do not turn the page. Please, please, please!
Sorry, buddy, we gotta see what's on the next page.
You turned the page!
Oh no, it's just that silly flower of life drawing.
And you were so scared.
6,000 years, mankind has been trying to decipher the flower of life. Now, you know this is one of the oldest symbols in human history, right?
And this is one of the oldest condiments in my refrigerator, which makes it sacred. Let's see, expired? Oh, that's extra sacred.
This symbol was found in the Temple of Osiris.
Okay, I know where he's going with this. He's gonna repeat that rumor from the internet that the symbol was laser etched in the temple by aliens.
And it had been molecularly burned into the wall. And it's 6,000 years old.
Molecularly burnt? He didn't even manage to repeat the rumor correctly. And he definitely didn't do his own research, because if you actually go to the Temple of Osiris, you can see it for yourself.
Okay, here we are, the famous Temple to Osiris. Here are the famous Flower of Life. Now, it has been reported by certain people on the internet that the Flower of Life is laser etched into the stone. Clearly, it's red ochre paint. There's no lasers, there's no etching. And originally, there were 6 more Flower of Life here, which disappeared. If it's etched in laser, it doesn't disappear. Come around the side. Here's other scenes that were painted at the same time. Clearly red ochre paint. No laser, no etching, no aliens.
There were secrets in that flower of life that Da Vinci spent his whole life trying to uncover, that Newton spent his whole life in secret trying to uncover.
I'm pretty sure Da Vinci and Newton did a few other things with their lives.
The same secrets that Pythagoras was desperately trying to uncover.
I'll bet that student who invited Terrence is now desperately wishing to be covered. Okay, confession time. I have a really hard time watching cringe content. I didn't make it all the way through this scene of Little Miss Sunshine, and watching Napoleon Dynamite made me feel like doing that. And this lecture is, it's like those same scenes, but so much worse because it's real life. Those are actual Oxford students being told that 1 × 1 = 2 by this guy.
I didn't go to school. I had a 1.6 grade point average graduating from high school.
Oh no, I'm on Cringe Cam. Why is that a thing?
Because I can either say I'm the smartest man in the world that I figured out what nobody else in the world could figure out. With Aristotle, with You guys believe in straight lines? You believe there's straight lines in the universe? Well, let me hit you with something. To define curved matter, I'm so sorry, I get so distracted. Do you believe in loops? Do you know the square root of 2? Do you think that's a loop? Do you believe that the square root of 2 is the square root of 2? Yes or no? Hands up, no? Hello? Oh. Anybody in here that thinks 1 times 1 equals 1, which is like the Jim Crow laws of the 60s. They say that anything multiplied by 1 becomes that same number as itself. Then you give me 2 pounds and I'll give you a pound back. 10 pence times 10 pence, that's a pound, right? 10 pence times 10 pence, is that right, honey? What about 4 quarters times 4 quarters? That's $1, right? Well, that's $4. And this is all legal. Do you think it's not happening in the banks? You really want to know the truth? This may be crazier than the fiction. The truth is, I woke up inside my mother's womb at about 6 months of age. And I came out and I was born. The first thing I thought about when I was 5 years old, I was obsessed with bubbles. I was like, why does a bubble take the shape of a ball? Why not a square or a triangle? And I would go and try and make square or triangular bubbles. What Da Vinci tried to do at 80, I did at 6 years old because I had been working on it perhaps from a past life. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm crazy or this. They are abandoning the standard model, the ideas of black holes and dark matter, for an electric model of the universe.
It was the electric sun model, and that's where quite a lot of other huge laws of physics.
Are they laws or are they ideas of physics?
Oh, well,
they are true, and I think there's some value to them. I don't know why I said that. Did I?
I hope you enjoyed that. I didn't. I don't suppose there's any questions from the... Oh, no.
So if by your logic you say 1 times 1 equals 2, are you insinuating that 1 times 0 then equals 1?
Equals 1. So if 1 times 0 equals 0, then what happened to the energy of the 1?
So then are you saying that 1 times 5 would be 6?
Yes.
Oh, this is like 1 times more awkward than before, which is, I think, awkward squared?
So you're not proposing an audit, you're proposing like a
You know what's interesting? In 1856, a man from Liverpool challenged the Dewey Decimal System.
The Dewey Decimal System?
Look up Richard Dover Statter. Try and find him. You won't find him because he's been erased from history almost.
Found him. It was the first result in Google. And here's his book, which Terrence can't remember the name of and has to ask one of the students.
What is the thing called, honey?
She replies, the decimal system.
Dewey Decimal System as a whole? The Dewey Decimal System as a whole.
Terrence! The decimal system is the way we count in base 10. The Dewey Decimal System is a library catalog, which has nothing to do with anything you're talking about and is not the title of this book you said I couldn't find. Here it is. And it says nothing you said it says.
Richard Dover Statter challenged the Dewey Decimal System and said that it was wrong.
That's wrong, Terrence. First of all, please stop saying Dewey Decimal System. We've been over this. It's embarrassing. And more importantly, this guy Dover Statter did not criticize decimals at all. On the contrary, his book argues that base 10 is so good, we should use it for everything. He wants clocks to count to 100 instead of 24, circles to be divided into 100 degrees instead of 360. He wants temperature in Celsius instead of Fahrenheit, and distances in meters and centimeters instead of feet and inches. All perfectly sensible suggestions, 2 of which actually got implemented. Except in America, multiply that by 0. And if you're Terrence, subtract 2 for good measure.
The Dewey Decimal System as a whole, and you will see.
Oh, I see. That you clearly did not read this book. If only someone would invent a library catalog that could help you find it.
And I might get shot about talking about this right now.
Oh, good. Let's sprinkle an unhealthy dose of paranoia to go along.
But I've got a book coming out called Does $1 times $1 equal $1, or does $1 times $1 equal $2?
Cool. Dude just got the title of his own book wrong. Well, at least he's consistent. Okay, by now it seems pretty obvious that Terrence's problem with math is that he just doesn't understand how units work. As you probably know, if you take 1 meter and multiply it by 1 meter, you multiply the values together to get 1 and the units to get a meter squared. And that has a practical use. You can multiply the length of your house by the width of your house to get how many square meters of floor space do you have, or square feet for countries who ignored Richard Overstatter's book. But Terrence insists that you ought to be able to do that same thing with money.
If I said, what's a dollar times a dollar? What's a dime times a dime? What's a quarter times a quarter? What about 100 pence times 100 pence? That's a dollar times a pound, right? Does that make sense?
No, a square dollar isn't a thing. You can't measure anything in square dollars. Multiplying those units is nonsense. It's like asking, what's one jackhammer times one donkey? Jackass. And these very British students very politely try to explain this to him, much more politely than I would.
So you're saying 1 pound times 1 pound is equal to 2 pounds. But it's 1 pound squared, which doesn't make any sense because you've got a squared unit.
Squared. 1 pound squared.
Can you divide pounds? You can't see dividing money?
It's a matter of definition. A pound squared is not a unit defined.
You know, it's funny, I actually patented 1 squared.
That's funny because you cannot patent numbers. And even if you could, patenting nonsense wouldn't make Terrence understand math. Yet these poor students still try.
A pound squared.
If you multiply by mathematical convention, if you multiply 1 pound by 1 pound, same as if you multiply 1 meter by 1 meter, it should be 1 pound squared or 1 square meter.
It becomes 2. Why does it become 1 pound squared is 2, isn't it?
Ow. These students only have time for one more question, but it's a good one.
About 5 years ago, you spoke about harmonic wave sequencing and how that could possibly solve cancer within the next 5 years. I think that was about 5 years ago. So is there much progress on that?
Yeah, the problem with saying you'll cure cancer in 5 years is that 5 years later, people might want to know where your cure is. Terrence gives a very long word salad answer full of excuses. The quantum dog ate his quantum homework or something. But he promises he's very close. Just a few more years till...
We'll definitely cure AIDS and cancer. And it's well underway.
Okay, well, that whole fiasco at Oxford was now 6 years ago, so if you do the math, that's 5 plus 6, or if you do Terrence's math, that's 10 times 1, which is 11 years now since he promised a cure for cancer. So let's check in on his progress.
Cancers have increased 300%.
Yeah. Wow, great work. Also, what the hell is he talking about?
And so now the cancers are building up.
And the more boosters you get,
boom,
the worse
turning
your
your
outcomes are
system
gonna be.
off. Your body cannot defend itself.
Okay, he's just spreading anti-vax conspiracy theories now. Because obviously his failure to cure cancer has to be someone else's fault. Can't be his fault. He's doing everything right. I mean, if you just look up how to prevent cancer, Terrence is at least following the #1 piece of medical advice, right?
And I smoke.
Why do you do that?
I'm a crackhead. I don't know.
Yeah, as we've already seen, no educated person is going to take Terrence seriously. So he had to find someone on his own level.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night.
Is that logo incredibly creepy on purpose? So in this 3-hour podcast from 2024, he repeats all the same things he said in his ebook and at the Oxford Union.
How is 1 times 1 equaling 1? What happened to the other one?
Except this time, instead of addressing a handful of students or ranting in a book that nobody's read, Joe gives him an audience of millions. And instead of educated students who politely push back...
So I was very, very, very skeptical.
He gets this former MMA dude.
Wow. I wish I could really, truly understand exactly what you're saying.
Wow. I wish I could truly understand why anybody listens to Joe Rogan.
Because I'm kind of getting it and you're doing a great job explaining it. But if you're right, that really changes everything.
And if he's wrong, Joe doesn't care because he's getting rich off his show either way. That's how you multiply dollars. So in this, 3-hour podcast, Terrence does most of the talking. How does he fill so much time, you might ask? Well, to answer that question, let's turn to a fun little website called the Pseudoscientific Jargon Generator, or PSJG. Every time you reload the page, it will generate 12 new paragraphs of random, profound-sounding nonsense ready to impress your podcast audience. For example, let me just refresh the page here. I've discovered these wave conjugations every person on the planet that has been thinking about it will now have ideas concerning not just us, but all humanoids throughout the entire universe will now get the morphic resonance because we are all connected on this ether. And that waveform, that's the consciousness. We are all just one great being. Namaste. So that might have sounded profound, but it was just random generated nonsense. Except, just kidding, that was a real quote from Terrence.
I've discovered these wave conjugations. Every person on the planet that's been thinking about it will now have ideas concerning it, but not just us, but all humanoids throughout the entire universe will now get the morphic resonance because we are all connected on this ether, and that waveform that's the consciousness. We are all just one great being.
So, trying to make any sense at all of this podcast was a challenge, but I'm going to try to sum up the main points very briefly. Firstly, Terrence is smarter than Einstein and better than all the other scientists in the world.
There's no government on this planet that has the technology that I have or can outdo what I have, because you can't outdo the fractal.
Wow.
Modern science is antiquated.
Their technology is antiquated compared to mine.
He knows this because some guys in the 1800s said so.
From 1887, 1872, 1600, that they did in 1887, they were trying to prove whether there was an ether. There was another guy, early 1800s, Walter wrote this in 1926, a paper in 1904.
Who wants to bet if he's actually read any of their books? He also reinvented the periodic table to give each element a sexuality.
And they call that a bisexual tone. All of those are mates. They're mating. There's a relationship going on in it.
Terrence also claims gravity isn't real. The sun is powered by electricity, like with a long extension cord somewhere maybe, and the Earth was born by the sun taking a poop.
How does the sun give birth to these planets?
The same way we defecate and have gas.
Or possibly a fart. Terrence has also figured out how to make flying saucer spaceships out of musical shapes.
I've invented a new form of flight. These shapes, vibrated properly, it's a levitation.
And so that would be the method of propulsion, just like these UAPs, and you can essentially travel instantaneously to anywhere if you have the right frequency.
The right frequency. It's all frequency.
I think we just watched a mini Joe-gasm there at the thought of having his very own UAPs. Terrence also teaches Joe that it's super easy to defy gravity. You just say it doesn't exist, and there, you've defied it, you rebel.
Another thing that kills gravity, you take a balloon, you rub it on your leg, watch the dust particles jump off the ground and jump onto that balloon, because why? Electricity is 137 times stronger than the effects of the so-called gravity.
See, scientists say there's gravity, but Terrence has a balloon that defies that theory of gravity by picking up very heavy objects like dust. Oh, and he also invented the death ray.
We patented it as a gun, but it's basically lightning in a bottle. We take water and we put it inside of a small chamber based on the wave conjugations that I have. It converts into plasma.
So it's a real lightning gun, like
Yes.
from Quake.
He just hasn't made any actual spaceships or death rays yet. It's all in here. But all the world's scientists are being very mean to him by not recognizing his incredible genius.
How is this received?
Oh, man. I reached out to Neil Degrasse Tyson, and I sent him over the 36-page thing that had the wave conjugations in it.
It belongs in the trash heap.
Okay, that was a little out of context. Neil Degrasse Tyson just released this response to Terrence and Joe, and yes, he said that, but he was actually very respectful.
In my field, we call that a peer review. So I lead off by saying, this is an ambitious work. Within these pages, however, there are many assumptions and statements that are underinformed, misinformed, or simply false. That's exactly what should happen in a peer review, out of respect for one another's intellect.
But Terrence wasn't feeling the respect.
And he went in on my treatise, wrote, redlined everything, but then he started attacking, the 1 × 1 = 2.
Maybe that's too blunt? What else should I say? I'm a scientist. That's what I would tell a colleague. A colleague who then say, would thank you, and then we go out for beer after, because that's how that works.
That's not how that works if you're Terrence. He gets butthurt and keeps arguing.
How is it that multiplication, if it means to make more, how is 1 × 1 = 1 part of the multiplication table?
I can only imagine how frustrating that was for Neil to try to explain math with Terrence arguing back that numbers are supposed to care about his feelings.
It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality. But if you're sure that you are still right and that I have completely misunderstood your thesis, then you will need to look for another person to evaluate what you have done.
When he said, if you have any other questions, you're going to have to see somebody else, and he wouldn't take my calls anymore. I was like, okay, so I reached out to another guy, Dr. David Tong. He attacked it with such vitriol.
How dare they say your math is wrong? That's just so mean.
When you speak against the established norm, you get pushed outside.
Oh, and there's also a giant government conspiracy against him.
We're about to kill their god, gravity, and they don't want that. Because I know they're watching me right now, and they're mad at me.
Who's they?
They.
They who?
I don't know. That's why they call him they, and them, you know.
So basically, he's just as persecuted and just as miraculous as Jesus.
Instead of waiting for the Messiah to show up, this is Jesus walking on water.
But all that incredibly unfair persecution made him so mad that he wanted to destroy the entire earth.
I was really angry, and I was going to use all of the knowledge that I had, and I was going to destroy mankind.
Especially his ex-wife, who accused him of domestic violence for no reason.
And they were calling me a wife beater and all of those things.
Although she did have recordings and photos, so he paid her off.
I paid her whatever money she wanted.
Also, he accidentally cheated on his current wife.
Then my wife would think I was cheating. I made that mistake way too early, in our relationship.
But it's okay because monkeys do it.
Chimpanzees, what do they have? They have a harem by nature.
So, I think that about sums it up. Not once in the entire interview did he mention his slightly delayed cure for cancer, but he did give a timeline for his new project.
In 2 years, I won't need props anymore. I'll use molecular excitation.
I'm excited. I can't wait to check up on him in 2 years and watch the launch of his intergalactic spaceships. Meanwhile, Joe has his own work cut out for him.
And I explained
I'm going to listen to this
all
podcast about 30 times just to try to get a slippery grip on any of it.
Yeah, that'll probably also take about 2 years. Well, good luck, guys. See you both in 2026 for Harmonic Frequency Blastoff. Wait. On a more serious note, can we talk about what the hell just happened? Okay, let's start with Terrence. I'm no psychologist, but it seems pretty obvious that this is a man in need of serious help. And I think at some level, he knows that he needs help. So he's gone looking for it. In all the wrong places. He went to the Jehovah's Witnesses. He turned to New Age spirituality and meditation, herbs, crystals, and now he's latched onto these ancient science conspiracy theories. He's also reportedly used a lot of drugs, which I'm sure doesn't help. But I think someone like Terrence exemplifies why pseudoscience is not harmless. And then there's Joe. Just from this one episode, he's obviously a fan of UFOs, anti-vax, and conspiracy theories in general. Those were the parts where he got really enthusiastic. But on the other hand, he has hosted real scientists on his show, including Neil Degrasse Tyson. So it looks to me like he just doesn't care that much about truth and cares a lot more about ratings. So basically, he's using Terrence, he's pandering to his audience, and getting rich off of sensationalist garbage. Pretty much exactly like the mainstream media he's always complaining about. So what can we do? Well, don't listen to him. Okay, now you can...
Just always be cautious of the Dunning-Kruger effect.
If you're right, so many people are wrong.
You put in a little bit of work.
Everyone's wrong. Oh, well, the universe backs me up.
And then you think your idea is right, and that Einstein is wrong, and Newton is wrong, and then everybody's wrong.
And I have the proof of it.
The platform to be accepted for the ideas is not social media. It is not Joe Rogan.
You have all these physicists that's saying something different.
There's nothing wrong with a failed idea. Now other people know to not do it.